I'm awesome, Julia. Things are going great. I've had a great expo. It's finally wonderful to meet you.
Same here.
And I know we talk on Facebook. I mean, you do a lot of promo for me on Facebook, so I'm here to say thank you for that, for all the work you do on the Facebook, promoting my book,
Thank you.
and promoting my other work.
Yes, as I understand it, you were running for mayor of Toronto, but now you've changed to running for councillor, right?
Right, we're running for council in Ward 20, so that's Mernagh for Ward 20. And the reason we switched, we built a really good campaign for mayor, but getting the traction we needed just wasn't going to happen. We had such a good campaign team of people working so hard that when the Ward 20 opened up, where there's no incumbent and it's in a very young left-leaning riding, so things are very good.
Wow, that's awesome. Where can people go for more information on this campaign?
Well, they can go to mernagh.ca or mernagh.ca right now, and they can keep up to date on all that. My Facebook and my Twitter profiles are great, and that's where they can find me.
Wonderful. So you are a cannabis patient?
Yes, I am. I use it for a brain tumor. It's right back here. It gives me lots of pain issues. So yeah, it controls all that.
Yeah, so you're familiar with Peter McWilliams' story?
Yes, I am. We've talked about this in the past, so yeah, I am familiar with Peter
Well,
McWilliams.
for the people that haven't seen this yet.
Right.
What is it about Peter McWilliams that drew you into his life and his work?
Well, he's one of the, I mean, he is like, not one of, he is one, well, yeah, he is one of the first. That's probably the best way to do it. He spoke out about medical marijuana in California. So I was growing up in the late 90s where you began using medical marijuana in 96, 97, really. And that's when he began, really becoming popular enough. What people don't understand, he had to become popular enough to, like, at least someone who was tuned in Canada could find his information. There was no internet or internets. So you relied on information through High Times and that type of resources. So much harder to get information, which made him, I think, even more popular in my mind. Is that this guy had to be epic wherever he was to have a guy in Toronto be tuned into him. I think that's what people mostly miss about Peter, is that he did have an international presence, especially at a time when there was no medical marijuana and it was just getting started here. By him being a face in California when we didn't have a face at all in Canada yet, I think played a huge role, where it's like, oh, okay, well, there's some people out there. And to be truthful, I was like, man, that's either the craziest or ballsiest motherfucker I've ever heard of.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so he's either really courageous or just really insane. I didn't know him, but...
Wow, so he actually, it sounds like he inspired your activism.
Well, I always having people in the spotlight made it easier for me not to be in the spotlight. And then I realized that unless I spoke out, and that was in 2002.
Oh, that's after he died too, yeah.
Yeah, so I realized if I didn't speak out, then who would speak out on my behalf? I wasn't too impressed, so...
Yes.
So, he is a very staunch libertarian, and he's treating himself, so...
Wow, that's awesome. So do you see the face of Peter McWilliams in a lot of patients that you meet every day, would you say?
Well, sure,
Suffering and what they're trying to do in Canada, taking away your grow and everything like that?
Well, people are going to have to stand up and fight for them like he did, and unfortunately there's consequences when you do that, and there's distinct problems when you stand up for something and you get taken out.
Yes. So speaking of standing up, what propelled you to run for political office?
Well, I finished my book. So my book was...
Which is called...
Marijuana Smoker's Guidebook, The Easy Way to Identify Marijuana Strains.
Which is on Amazon.
Amazon and Urban Outfitters. You can go to Urban Outfitters, and if they don't have it, they'll special order it. So That's great. That's Urban Outfitters. What got me into public office was looking at all the skills that I had acquired over the last 6 years doing my court case, RV Mernagh. And we went and just was trying to figure out what to do.
Yes.
It was a really big determinant, what are we supposed to, what do we do next? We came up with my list of skills, so...
You were, as I understand it, you were the closest in Canada ever to get it legalized, correct?
Within 90 days. We came
Wow.
within 90 days of allowing, I guess this is why, a lot of libertarians can love me, is we came within 90 days of repealing prohibition on growing and on possession. And that was anyone. It wasn't just anybody. The court had determined that there is a definite default if I didn't have access to marijuana, which I grew myself. I got caught doing, and it took 6 years of court.
Wow.
It took 3 years just to launch our constitutional challenge. It was a long journey, and we came within 90 days of doing it. And the government, and I have to tell people, like, it was just me and one guy in an office, like, as a lawyer. It was a small team of people, like literally a very, very small team of people, and that's what people should know. It only took a handful of us that were smart enough to want to do it. And I think that's one of Peter McWilliams' great traits, is that was only a few of them, but man, did they ever do it. So, yeah, struck down the weed law within 90 days. Ultimately, I guess a small group of us couldn't, the government just had more prosecutors, more team, more work, they really took it out, worked really hard to take us on. And they had most of it ruled the other way.
Wow.
In the Canadian, I wasn't prosecuted, so even though I was could have been prosecuted for my crime after the courts were started, well, let's take another look at this, let's let's keep running it up the chain. What ends up happening, it's not in the best interest of the Canadian people to prosecute me. So
you don't think they're going to?
Well, all my trial, I'm done in court.
You're done in court. So now you're running for that ward, and you're hoping. Well, what can people do to help your campaign? I know that you're looking for volunteers, right?
Volunteers, if you're online, you can volunteer for us for sure by submitting stuff to Reddit, Facebook likes, sharing with your Facebook friends is very important for the Facebook lithogram to work.
Yes.
And liking, of course.
Right.
So we can have online social media teams and in-person social media teams that are door knocking with me. And donations, but unfortunately Ontario election laws only allow you to donate to an election campaign if you're on Ontario.
Wow.
However, I will have t-shirts for sale on my mernagh.ca website.
Nice.
And other things for sale, like buy my book at Urban Outfitters if you can't make a political donation. Buy my book, that's how I earn a living. And having the free time from book writing.
As Peter was made up living with books too, so that's awesome.
And it's the same sort of thing.
So what is the final thoughts that you would like to leave with our viewers about Peter? What do you think the most important thing Canadians especially could take away from his story and his life?
Well, I mean, as I say, he's internationally recognized, and it took a lot of effort back in the 90s to get that way, to tune in to people like myself, my buddy Chris Goodwin, and some of the other people that you may have heard of. Like, we remember the 90s that were like, fuck, man, this guy's doing it. And not many people in Canada were doing it at the time at all, and doing it at his level to get that kind of notoriety. People need to understand, like, it takes an effort to become recognized outside your state, outside, and then get to the point outside your country. I think people need to know that.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Matt, for having me and having you.
Nice. Thank you for having me, Julia.
Great luck to you in your campaign.
Thank you, hon.